Hi, this is your host Sapni Bhartia, and welcome to another episode of TFR Let's Talk. Today we have with us Chris Friedt, Zephyr Release Manager and Embedded Software Engineer at Facebook. Chris, it's great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks. It's really nice to be here.
Right, and today we will talk about Zephyr LTS version 2. Before we talk about a specific version, I would like to hear from you. What role do you see Zephyr is playing in today's world where we do have Linux and other kernels out there?
Yeah, well, I think that the biggest impact that it's going to have will be the ability for Linux and an RTOS like Zephyr to be packaged together and work in concert really wonderfully as a product. So I think it's really going to enable manufacturers to make better Linux based products.
When you talk about Zephyr and Linux in the same product, what kind of use cases you are looking at? Because sometimes it seems like there's different footprint and different use cases. So talk a bit about the combined use cases you are looking at.
Well, that's exactly it. Zephyr has a really minimal memory footprint. So we're talking kilobytes of flash space and kilobytes of RAM, nothing beyond that. And typically Linux will require megabytes of RAM and around the same magnitude for flash or storage. And then of course, Zephyr is the real-time operating system that would probably go on something like a network coprocessor where you are interacting real time with Bluetooth, LoRa, or Wi-Fi. And then Linux typically would communicate with that network coprocessor.
Let's talk about what are the new features there. What are the enhancements that you made?
This is the biggest release ever from the Zephyr project. So I know that the Bluetooth team has been extremely active, adding Bluetooth audio or improving Bluetooth audio, adding direction finding, and improving Bluetooth mesh as well. This is also kind of a small feature, but I think it's really important. They've extended the size of the Bluetooth advertisement field beyond 251 bytes so that you can get really interesting and creative advertisement messages to your Apple iPhone or your Mac, when you're pairing with a Bluetooth device. Aside from that, there have been a lot of changes, additions, I should say, to the ARC architecture and CMSys, which is an ARM library that was upgraded to version 5.8.0. Of course, the 64-bit ARM gains some M-profile vector extension support, improvements to the PCI subsystem. A small contribution that I recently made was adding service type enumeration to DNS service discovery, which I'm quite excited about because that will enable network-enabled Zephyr devices to just show up when they're attached to your home network. Another really important improvement that was made was the enablement for additional tool chains. So for example, we have support now for ARM Clang and ARM Linker, as well as the ARC specific tool chain. In Zephyr, we like to be inclusive, and we know that there are a lot of vendors out there that have very specific toolchain requirements. So this should enable toolchain vendors to add support for Zephyr to their portfolio.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the name LTS, is self-explanatory, long-term support. First of all, for how long do you support a version? Number two is that what is the actual importance for the ecosystem where I'm looking at the product manufacturers? What does it mean to them?
The long-term support release is important because it enables manufacturers to have a steady point of reference for any additions or modifications they need to make to Zephyr. And also, it gives us the opportunity to say, we've vetted this piece of software to the best of our ability, and we can promise that there are no major bugs, there are no medium priority bugs, or less than 20, I should say. We have some limits that we actually publish. So no blockers, there's nothing that's going to be a showstopper in their product release. And of course, we do intend to support this LTS release for 2 years.
How easy is the upgrade path from one release to the other?
Currently, our version 1 LTS is slated to overlap with version 2 for a period of 6 months. Now, I might have to go back and check on that, but I believe that's what the case is. And we do backport still to version 1 LTS. And because of that overlap, it should give our industry partners a chance to move pretty seamlessly from one version to the next. So in terms of upgrade path, we do support various firmware upgrade methods. There's an OTA upgrade method. We also have MCU boot, which is our bootloader that we support, and that will allow you to manage multiple firmware versions. So upgrading from version 1 LTS to version 2 LTS is pretty seamless.
Can you also talk about what kind of or how many boards are supported by the LTS release? And also, is there certain boards are supported on LTS, and then there are, because LTS is you have to maintain for 2 years, so you do have to focus on what kind of boards you do want to support, because otherwise that will become a liability on you.
Exactly. So any boards that are no longer manufactured, we do not support. So occasionally there are various beta development boards that are released, but if those cease to be in production, then we can't support them. Anything that is part of the long-term support release is something that we anticipate would have manufacturability for at least a couple of years. So currently I think there is possibly one board that might not be a part of LTS in the long term. But we'll have to look into some more details about that. But currently we do support close to, if not exactly, 400 different development boards. And that's on 12 different architectures, including some microarchitectures. So it really gives you a huge choice. It really gives you a huge number of boards to choose from.
The Zephyr community adoption is growing. So talk about what kind of growth you have seen in adoption and of the community in the last, let's say, since the last release, or let's say last 12 months.
It is absolutely increasing. I don't want to say it's exponential, but it's huge. It's explosive. We recently surpassed our 1,000th contributor. So that's pretty exciting. We're now at I think 1,300. And compared to LTS 1, that's over double. It's nearly triple. And I would say the community is probably the best that I've ever been a part of. Everyone's quite patient. Nobody's confrontational. We're all here to achieve the same goal, which is releasing a really great product.
One thing that we did not touch upon, and that is becoming kind of a major discussion no matter where you look at, and which is security. From what I know, the security, you folks do a lot of work on security as well. So from the LTS perspective, what are you doing for security? What is there to make sure that all those devices are secure?
So just as vendors and manufacturers expect the product update and firmware update process to go seamlessly, they also expect that their products will be secure over time. And another really important part of the long-term support release is that we will be adding CVE fixes, patches to mitigate security issues to the LTS release. So anything that goes into the main line of Zephyr to fix a security issue will also be backported to the LTS branch.
Chris, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk about not only this, of course, version 2 of LTS, but also the most exciting thing that you mentioned was Linux and Zephyr, because those are the kind of use cases I'll be more than interested in seeing. So thanks for sharing those insights, and I would love to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.